What if the richest person in the world told you they were actually bankrupt every single morning? They would be telling the truth, because no matter how much gold fills their vaults, they wake up with only one thing that cannot be bought back: 24 hours. The same 24 hours you woke up with today. Yet some people turn those hours into empires, while others let them slip like sand. So we must ask the question that separates legends from the lost. Why do the most successful people treat time like it is their most precious currency? Let us enter a story that counts every heartbeat. Follow a watchmaker who learned that the true treasure is not the watch, but what the watch measures. In the cliff city of Horath, where the tide carves the rock and the gulls scream like unpaid debts, stood the greatest clock tower ever built. Its face was the size of a ship's sail, visible from every quarter of the city. For 300 years, it had never lost a second. The man responsible was master clockmaker Elias. He was not born to wealth or title. He began as an orphan, sweeping brass shavings in the tower's shadow. At 14, he could take apart any mechanism blindfolded. At 20, he could make gears sing. At 30, the city council begged him to become the new keeper of the great clock. They offered gold, a mansion, parades. Elias asked for one thing only: absolute authority over every second the tower gave the city. They laughed until they realized he was serious. They gave it to him. From that day forward, Elias lived inside the tower. He slept on a cot beside the pendulum. He ate standing up. He never married, never traveled farther than the harbor to buy oil. People called him mad, a monk of minutes. Yet ships set sail by his bell. Markets opened and closed at his chime. Lovers met beneath his shadow, believing time itself belonged to them. Elias knew better. Every night at midnight, he climbed the 400 steps to the mechanism room. There he performed a ritual no one else was allowed to witness. He opened a notebook bound in black leather and wrote a single line. Then he closed the book, locked the door, and let the city sleep. Years passed like seconds. Elias grew old while the tower stayed young. His hair turned the color of polished steel. His hands trembled only when they were still. The city council began to worry. Who would replace a man who had given his life to minutes? They sent apprentices. Elias sent them away. Before the first week ended, they were brilliant, but they treated time like a river, something to float on. Elias treated time like gold dust, something to be caught, weighed, and spent only on masterpieces. One winter, a new apprentice arrived who would not leave. Her name was Lira. She was 19, small, fierce, with eyes the color of storm clouds before rain. She carried a broken pocket watch and a question that burned hotter than any furnace. Why do you guard time like it's running out when you have spent your whole life inside it? Elias stared at the girl as the great pendulum swept behind him like a slow blade. No one had ever dared ask that question. He told her to leave. Lira sat on the bottom step and refused to move. She stayed 3 days and 3 nights without food or sleep, matching his silence. On the 4th midnight, Elias climbed the stairs and found her still there, eyes red but unbroken. He opened the iron door to the mechanism room and for the first time in 40 years, allowed another soul inside. The room was a cathedral of gears, brass planets orbiting in perfect silence, weights hanging like sleeping giants. At the center stood a small desk and the black leather book. Elias opened it with hands that no longer trembled. Every page held the same sentence, written in different ink, different slant, different pressure. Today I spent 86,400 seconds. Here is what I bought with them. Below each date was a single line. Some read, repaired escapement, 3 lives saved at sea. Some read, taught boy to read gears, 1 future master born. Some read only, sat with dying friend, no second wasted. Lira turned the pages and felt the air leave her lungs. This was not a log of maintenance, it was a ledger of a life. Every second accounted for, weighed, spent on purpose. Elias closed the book and spoke for the first time in days. Money can be regained, reputation can be rebuilt. Time alone, once gone, is gone forever. He told her the secret the tower had taught him. Most people do not die of old age, they die of unused hours. He made her a promise and a threat. Stay 1 year, live exactly as I live, keep the same ledger. If at the end you still believe time is endless, you may leave and waste the rest of yours. But if you learn what I have learned, you will never again spend a second you cannot name. Lira accepted. The year began like a sentence in prison. She woke when the first chime struck 4. She oiled gears, counted swings, measured starlight through the theodolite. She ate only what could be consumed in 7 minutes. She slept only when the tower allowed it. Every midnight she opened the black book and wrote her single line. At first the lines were angry, polished brass for people who will never know my name. Then they grew curious, discovered why the bell sings sharper after rain. Then they grew quiet, held the hand of an old man who cried because the clock still worked and he no longer did. 6 months in, the city threw its midsummer festival. Music floated up the cliff like smoke. Laughter, wine, dancing until dawn. Lira stood at the balcony, aching to join them. Elias handed her the key to the tower door. "Go," he said. "One night will not break you." She almost ran down the 400 steps. At the bottom, she stopped. She pictured the morning ledger entry, danced while the tower waited. She turned around and climbed back up. That night, she wrote, chose the tower over the festival, and felt richer than every reveler below. On the last night of the year, the greatest storm in a century struck Horath. Waves smashed the lower city like war hammers. Lightning clawed the sky raw. At 11:57, the main cable of the pendulum snapped. The tower's heart stopped with 3 minutes to midnight. For the first time in 300 years, the great clock was silent. The city below panicked. Ships in the harbor drifted blind. Markets froze. Lovers stood lost under dead bells. Elias and Lira ran the 400 steps, carrying the emergency chain. The wind tore at them like living hands. Halfway up, Elias slipped and fell against the railing. His chest seized. The old man's heart finally said enough. He pressed the chain into Lira's hands and pushed her onward. "Finish it," he gasped. "1 second is still yours." Lira climbed alone. Rain turned the stairs into a waterfall. She reached the mechanism room at 11:59 and 14 seconds. With 46 seconds left in the year, she threaded the new chain through frozen pulleys. Her hands bled, her shoulders screamed. At exactly midnight, she released the weight. The pendulum swung. The bell tolled once, deep and certain, rolling over the storm like judgment. The city exhaled. Below, people fell to their knees in the flooded streets, not knowing a 19-year-old girl had just bought them another year of measured life. Elias died in the stairwell with the echo still in his ears. Lira carried him down at dawn and buried him beneath the tower he never left. She took his place as keeper and kept the black book. 50 years later, when her own hair was steel and her hands no longer shook, the city tried to crown her with statues and titles. She refused everything except the key to the tower door. On her final midnight, she climbed the 400 steps one last time. She opened the book to the last blank page and wrote, "Spent 86 out 400 seconds today, bought an entire city another year of certainty, and one old man a peaceful death. Best trade I ever made." She closed the book, locked the door behind her, and walked down into the city she had timed for half a century. Now let the tower speak directly to the watch on your wrist, the phone in your hand, the life you still have left to spend. time is the only currency that bankrupts billionaires and beggars at exactly the same hour. The difference between a wasted life and a legendary one is not how many seconds you are given. It is what you choose to purchase with them. Here is the exact system Elias and Lira lived by, the one you can begin tonight. 1. Every morning, write the date and the number 86,400 in a notebook you never lose. 2. At the end of the day, before your head touches the pillow, write one line. Today I spent 86,400 seconds. Here's what I bought. Be brutally honest. No excuses, no fluff. 3. If you cannot write a line you are proud to read on your last day, change tomorrow before it arrives. 4. Guard your deepest hours the way Elias guarded the pendulum. Say no to anything that would make your ledger entry feel like theft. 5. Once a year on the same date, read every entry aloud to yourself. You will see your empire of spent seconds rise like a city around you. The great clock of Horath still keeps perfect time. Ships still sail by its bell. Lovers still meet beneath its shadow. And every midnight, somewhere in the city, someone opens a black book and accounts for the only fortune that truly matters. Your next 86,400 seconds have already begun ticking. The ledger is open, the pen is in your hand. Spend them like the richest person alive. Because when it comes to time, you already are. Start writing tonight. The tower is listening.